Papa Funk.
In the house. You're playing some nice music there, man.
Really good track, man. I'll tell you that. I don't know where I got this track from. Found itself to my inbox, and I was like, I need to share it with everybody.
Nice. Thanks for that, huh?
How are you, brother?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm trying to survive lockdown like the rest of the world. How are you doing?
Dude, I'm doing really well. So, dude, I'm super grateful for you making time. I mean, you could have been mixing, you could have been prepping selective styles. I know there's a lot that I want to chat with you about.
Sure.
So yeah, thank you, dude, for giving us time.
Oh, my pleasure.
I think where I want to kind of start it and kind of get an idea of how you're doing, bro, because for a lot of people, obviously, they know that you work at 5FM, so we're colleagues there as well. So there's been a lot of changes in your life as a result of what's going on right now.
It kind of opened up this world to me that I didn't know existed, and it kind of forced me to start being creative with the tools that I have at home. And I've done a couple of streams ever since, and on top of that, I've just been focusing on my record label. But I mean, amongst the madness of trying to curate a radio show, do some good deals with brands on streams, run the record label, which I've pushed the release schedule up, and I've committed to doing a release every single Friday.
Oh wow!
While we're in lockdown, and I've committed to that. And it's not just been to put music out, because that's easy. It's because I've got so much great music in the bag. So I just kind of split the release schedule up with Stay True Sounds and Stay True Beats. And then I have a 5-year-old running around the house, man.
Yeah, I think a lot of people know you now, like obviously like with the record label, with selective styles on 5FM, with the amazing stuff that you're doing with Valentine's around the country. I think it was with Juliet, you know?
Yes.
A lot of people don't know how the career started though, and like for you to result in this sort of amazing room as well. So let's start there. I'd love to find out like where did it all start for you, like even before Soul Candy, in fact.
It's always been music, man. I was brought up in a household with music. My dad was just a music crazy guy. Loved everything, and we used to go on drives on the weekends to Rosebank when there was CD Warehouse, and CD Warehouse in Oxford Muse was at the back. They used to bring in all the imported CDs, and occasionally he would allow me to buy a CD, or he'd give me some money to buy a CD. And I got into I was in Rudaput College at the time. I think I was about 15 and 16, and I started DJing. They had DJ slots in between lunch breaks at Rudaput College. Rudaput College was not the sexiest college to go to at all. But without a doubt, like I learned about DJing. I mean, they had CD players. There was no cues. There was no pitch. You could just press play. So I ended up buying 2 CD players and a mixing desk at home, and then I just play.
A lot of people don't realize, like for instance, some of the best music that we listened to during the 2000s, Soul Candy was behind, especially dance music in South Africa.
Dude, Soul Candy was at a time the biggest house label on the continent. Yeah. You know, we were putting out the machine. And I even think, this was happening well before I became label manager. Yeah. But like the thinking behind releases, you know, it's what volume was it? I think it was Soul Candy Volume 3. Yeah. Roger Good, Euphonic, Terrence, 3 CD pack for 99 Rand.
Bro, I remember that.
Exploded, man. It was just like another level. And that kind of was what cemented the brand with everyone. Yeah. And you know, you had Roger on radio, you had Terrence who was coming up in the soulful scene, and you had Temba Euphonic who was just destroying it, and Soul Candy managed to put out all of them on one pack at like an affordable price. Yeah. And then
that was the game changer, yeah.
That for me, without a doubt. And here I come as a DJ, but I wasn't, like, I always loved house. I was more into like Saint Germain and more of the organic stuff. And then they were just like, this is your baby. You know, the legacy that Brett had left behind, I had to take over. Yeah. And it was daunting, man. It was it was daunting, but if anything, I had to embrace it and do things how I felt like I should. I learned so much, man. Like I would, without a doubt, not be in the position I am right now if it wasn't for my journey at Soul Candy.
What's like so fascinating and so like inspiring whenever like I read up on the story and I kind of like observe how you move as well, because you would think that as tall as you are, your head would be literally in the clouds, because um, you've kind of like rubbed shoulders with the best. You've seen everything. You've experienced everything in terms of music. Like you're literally a walking textbook for me in terms of how to navigate this thing.
Yeah.
I remember when we officially met was when we both joined Five. You know,
Yes.
I remember the story of you joining Five was something that you did not expect at all.
Dude, this was like the tail end of Soul Candy's existence. You know,
Yeah.
they literally kind of got rid or retrenched, I'd say 90% of the staff. And because I was the label manager, I knew all the contracts and I knew all the deals because I'd done them.
Yeah.
So they needed me to stay on just to help with catalog work, because the catalog still existed even if the label didn't. Songs and licenses were still in turn. So I was managing that for them like 3 days a week. And they had already retrenched me, but I was kind of getting paid for my time.
Yeah.
And everyone that I was working with was very much in that 5FM space.
Yeah.
So there was Carl Word, Ricardo da Costa, all the guys that were mates with Carl Kassem and everyone that makes sense in my mind to 5FM as a brand.
Yeah.
And, there was this big opening or this big shuffle at Five that everyone was talking about. And I mean, I don't even listen to 5FM, to be honest. It's not my lane. And everyone was talking about it in the office, and it was the last thing on my mind. I kind of went into the conversation with like, guys, listen, I understand 5FM. I'm not 100% sure if you understand me, but it has to be my way. The only way I'm going to do this is my way. I'm not going in there to try and compete with people that have been on Five before.
The one thing that keeps like recurring in my mind, especially with like the story that you're sharing around your experience with labels, your experience with music, you've been collecting music before some of us were even born, in fact.
Sure.
And music, though, up until the point that you got to 5FM and you started sharing your music had gone through so many evolutions, from you having to physically travel, get into a plane to go get the music you want, to now at a click of a button, and how quickly that music, like something can drop this week, next week we've forgotten about it.
Dude.
I want to talk a bit about that, like the evolution of music, like for you, like all the phases that you've experienced,
So the music that I was distributing with Coast Music before Soul Candy was so niche, bro. Like, people wouldn't pirate that because it wasn't mainstream. And it would only really realize the height of piracy when I started at Soul Candy, because that's when guys were like burning CDs and selling them for like, I don't know, 10, 20 rand at Robots, Soul Candy CDs. And there was a proper lockdown, man. The police were into it. It was bizarre, man. It was a wild time. I remember Harrell and everyone, just like this crackdown on piracy was affecting the business. And then to kind of take a snapshot of where we are now in the digital space and how much we earn per stream. And people are still ripping off music in South Africa because we have a problem with data costs, which doesn't happen around the world. If I go overseas and I'm like, I get so frustrated with kids ripping Stay True Sound's music. They're like, why do people rip music? You can just stream.
Yeah.
And not everyone in this country has accessibility to a credit card, never mind an Apple account or a streaming service account. So, I release music, like I said, every Friday, and sometimes like it doesn't even get to the afternoon. And the music I put up is already on like the
Bagazo.
50 Fair starts, and yeah, all these things. And the kids, the wildest thing is the kids screenshot like them listening to it with the where they got the site, the tune in the screenshot, and then like at you, and they'll tweet you like, I'm loving the music. And it's such a difficult thing, because you want to come down on them, but again, they're supporting you in a sense, although they're not giving you that 0.007 cents they would have on a stream. They've committed their money to data to get that song. And
so in some way, they actually have paid to get it.
They have. It doesn't directly go to you, though. But hopefully you can create a fan of the brand. You know, Stay True Sounds has grown to be a really beautiful brand. And come to our events, you know, where any performer's real money is.
The crazy thing about music as well in its evolution, I think during that time, you mentioned something very, very key, where a lot of South African musicians started realizing that the actual money is in the performance.
Yeah. Although, I mean, there was money in physical.
Yeah.
Trust me, I saw statements leaving Soul Candy. You know, there was money. But as soon as the CD, and last year was the last year of CDs, because I was putting out CDs with Stay True Sounds.
Yeah.
CDs have gone. There's a little bit of money in vinyl. You'll find you probably earn more on vinyl than you will on streaming.
Oh, wow.
But there was definitely cash in physical. If you had a hit, if you had DJ Ganyani's Shigubu, if you had that song, bro, you were doing 50,000 CDs and you were making cash.
Yeah.
But now, more than ever, you need performance.
Before we get into performance, because I would imagine like a lot of like, not even just watching it now, but people who watch this back will be a lot of aspiring musos as well, you know? And for me, the thing that always kind of like shocks me, especially with people that get into the music industry, is just how little they know about it. You know,
dude, I encounter it every day of my life.
You know, and you mentioned something like that 0.7 cents. You know,
yeah.
And I think a lot of artists come in with the talents. The DJs come in with their talent and go, "I'm going to make this money," but they don't know that this money is going to be split a number of ways. You know, like for you and working at a label. Like, how was the money being split?
Every record label deals with things differently. I got all my teachings and understanding from Soul Candy, and there was an evolution in the way they did their business from when I started to when we ended. And at the beginning, Soul Candy started out and was just a label that licensed music.
Yeah.
So I never owned the music. It would license music from around the world and put compilations together.
Yeah.
And then for that license, you would, back in the days, traditionally you would give an advance, and then you would recoup that advance and then pay what's left. And the deal was always 50-50.
Yeah.
Traditionally speaking, that's what people do on digital sales in the current music business on a license. When I license music as Stay True Sounds, traditionally it's 50-50.
Yeah.
But as Soul Candy grew and as Soul Candy learned how the majors played the game, they started getting into 360 deals, which is the major record label model of owning and putting out artists. Because what they realized was they were creating an artist that would make a lot of money from gigs, and they weren't tapped into that. So they were like, if I'm going to invest in your music, which is therefore going to create a platform for you to make money as gigging, we're going to
make something,
create an arm in that link and earn money from your events.
But I know for a fact there were certain things when you started Stay True, you were like, this Stay True is going to be different like this.
Yeah.
And what were those points of differences right from the get-go? You were like, okay, this is what I'm doing now.
Well, first things first is it's my label.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make the rules, and just I suppose like that discussion I had with Father Fem at the beginning, I want to do things my way.
Yeah.
I'm not A&Ring for radio. I'm
Yeah.
A&Ring for music I love.
Yeah.
Which takes a lot of the stress away. I'm not looking at my release schedule and then looking at the bank balance every single month, and I'm not creating targets, which was very much the way any business runs, and that's exactly how Soul Candy ran. But I was like, this is passion. I'm running this record label for passion, and it took a long time, man. It took like 2 or 3 years before we started like making money. Yeah, because everything was passion, and I didn't have a job. Yeah, I was running a record label, had a show on 5FM, DJing, and I was taking the money that I was making from my gigs, which should have been for my family, and putting it into a record label that I wanted to build. And 4 years down the line, and we were, Stay True Sounds is in a really beautiful space. It has good fans. It's discovered great music. And the kind of ethos is the same. I'm not looking for music to play on radio. If for some reason an artist gives me a song and it does work for radio and it's dope, that's just an extra like cream on top. You know, that's a bonus. But by no means at all do I A&R and find music for the label to make a lot of money. I find it because it's dope. That's it, bottom line.
Which artists right now are you working with on Stay True Sounds? And I also kind of like want to get an idea of why those guys.
It's always music, man. It's never about the person. Yeah. To be honest, it's about the music.
You know, guys are not gigging, guys are not making money, which kind of tells me like if something like this were to happen, as much as we all love DJing, it doesn't feel like it's a sustainable thing through a pandemic.
It doesn't, man. And the reality is, like, if you don't have a good internet connection and you don't have a setup, what are you going to do? And it's a discussion that I've been having with some of my friends too over this lockdown. You know, Julian and Gomes and myself chat often, and one of the discussions is exactly this: like, as a DJ, if you are just a DJ, that is your skill, your trade, and lockdowns come and you don't have a good internet line or you don't have a proper setup at home, what do you do?
Other than spending your own data to make this thing happen and just to remain top of mind, it doesn't also translate into actual cash in hand for a lot of guys. Like they're not a Kid Fonque who has a relationship with a brand who wants to do something like this, you know?
For sure.
I don't even know if you have advice for these people. What next?
I don't know, man. I've been asking the same questions you have. Like literally, what you're asking me is a discussion point for my weekly conversations with my circle of friends, and I wish I could answer these questions. You know what I mean? But it's you know, I just like you and just like me, I'm trying to keep the lights on at home. I'm trying to feed my family. So I've got the tools that I can do it for anyone else. You know, I don't know. I wish I had the answers. I suppose you just got to think out the box and see what you have in front of you and see how you can make that work for you.
What are some of the pitfalls and challenges of being a label manager?
I suppose the worst thing, which I've solved recently, is accounting, man. Like as a label,
for any business,
administration and accounting to artists is a very challenging and difficult task. But when you get to a label my size, I just outsource it now. So I just get the best in the game to deal with the problem, and my problem is solved.
I've got a question here. Are we ever gonna get a Stay True Beats series volume 2?
If time allows, it's about time, man. I've got such a hectic release schedule, and curating and putting together a 13-track or a good 13-track compilation of South African beat music takes a lot of time, and I would love to. The intention is there. Let's put it that way.
There's a lot of up and coming musicians, people who are passionate about music, who are waiting, like salivating for this thing to stop, but they have to get through this. And how are you getting through it, and how do you suggest they do?
I think the best thing and what's working for us, and I suppose having a child has really helped us create these things. But routine, man, like routine. If there's a lockdown, it doesn't mean that you got to wake up at 9 every morning. Like create that routine. Like set your clock, get up, have your breakfast, and if you're a producer, set time aside to make music like you were going to a job. And then set time to have lunch. And then after that, go back to whatever it is you're doing. And that's, to be honest, the only thing that's kept me and this household that I live in sane is having a routine. When weekends come up, there's no routine in this house. And all we want to do is get back to Monday, because then it just feels like we're sane again.
Got you.
It really does. So I think if anyone's watching and they're struggling with how to deal with the time that they have, I think routine. Make a list. I could even just put in a diary, Monday to Friday, and put your times in, and that's what I'm doing between those times, and make sure that it's something creative or something that you love or something that fulfills you.
Got you, bro. I've got literally 20 seconds. I want to thank you. We're radio people, so we stick to time before the ad starts.
You know what I'm saying?
I appreciate you very much, my brother, and thank you so much for sharing. Like everyone knows, we can catch you every single Sunday between 5 and 7. But I think just like you sharing your story, there's a lot of people who are inspired by this. So thank you very much, bro.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Lloyd. And I'll chat to you on Sunday.